Hey everyone, and welcome to Already Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Star Trek The Next Generation Season 2, Episode 7. It's called Unnatural Selection. So, full spoilers for the episode. As always, we get a Pulaski-focused episode, everyone's favourite.
Oh, I know.
Everyone's favourite. Do you know what's funny? Like, I don't hate Pulaski. Like, she's not, like, painful or anything like that, but she's just also really uninteresting and dull, yes.
Yeah.
And a fair chunk of this is kind of like how Picard like relates and trusts her. The episode opens with him talking to Troy and like, well, what thoughts do you have on medical officer Pulaski? And she's like, well, she's very dedicated about her job. He's like, yes, of course. Which is a really weird response to that for me. What do you mean? Yes, of course. Like, yes. I figured that, I suppose. But yes.
No, I get where he's coming from. I think with that, it's like, yes, of course she's dedicated. She's a bloody chief medical officer. I need to know more than that.
I like to think that some people in Starfleet have gotten to that position and have sort of like wavered a bit because like, I've succeeded now. I'm at the peak of my game. Then I'm going to get lazy.
I mean, maybe, yeah.
Get a little complacent.
I feel like the people who do that typically don't get promoted quite that high.
That's what I'm saying though, after they're promoted that high. They get to that point that they've reached the zenith.
I mean, maybe.
And then they get complacent.
There's always higher.
But Crusher got that higher position. She's the head of the medical in the entirety of Starfleet now, apparently. So,
yeah.
I have to imagine there's some positions in between that. I feel like there's probably a few things.
No, I feel like even above being the head of medical on just a starship, one bigger starship, more prestigious starships.
It's Enterprise.
Sure, but I'm generalizing.
Okay.
I'm as a blanket for the entire bunch. Maybe head of a space station probably covers more people than a starship.
Okay. So all you're really saying to me then is that this is not actually that highly promoted, and therefore, if she is that type of person, then she could be slacking.
It's as high as you can be promoted on a starship. Well, again, because you can be chief medical officer on a smaller ship and then go up to this ship, and technically that's not a promotion because it's still the same job role. But
my comment really has nothing to do with any of this bickering, to be honest. Like,
it doesn't. No.
It's just his delivery of yes, of course, as if that was a given and it was a stupid question to ask. Just kind of felt weird to me. Because it wasn't so much that what she says is inaccurate, he disagrees with what she said. It's more that he asks her opinion of her and she says something so utterly like obvious and pointless. Is more my complaint here. Not that Picard himself is saying something stupid. It's that Troy says something stupid.
Yes, Troy definitely says something stupid.
And he just kind of goes along with it and doesn't hurt her feelings. Which I feel like that's half of Troy's interactions with Picard or anyone else for that matter.
Yeah. And do you know what the sad thing is?
Yes.
She knows they're bullshitting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. She's feeling, inside he's going, you stupid bitch, I know that. And she knows. She's picking up on that feeling.
Assuming that her powers are real, I'm not convinced. She hears the Klingon go, "I will kill you, Picard!" And then she's like, "I sense he's very angry, Captain." Thanks, Troy. That was helpful.
Oh, I love the idea that she has bullshitted away to this level of stuff.
Yes.
She's like a medium. Yeah.
She's like, all our was it Balthazars, whatever our species is.
I forgot
yes,
already.
We're all empaths. We all feel things from other people. Yes, it's this con they've all got going together as a group.
Yeah.
Like, this will be easy. We'll just get jobs in
planet-wide hustle.
all parts of Starfleet. We'll just get jobs all over it because we'll pretend we're all psychic to an extent. But yeah, so the plot of this is that they get a distress call from a ship. And when they go towards the ship, there's like no responses from it. They can't get any contact with it. And luckily, instead of just beaming across like Worf was gung-ho about, although there is an interesting question here if Worf would be affected by this, given that he's not actually human. Because there's no indication in this episode that anything other than human would be affected. But that's another.
I don't know. I got some thoughts on that.
Well, Yeah, given what we find out where it comes from, then yeah, maybe there's an argument. But
Yeah.
but before we get to that, I just think it's a disease.
Sure, I assume that most diseases that, as far as they're concerned, most diseases will affect all their species to some extent. Maybe not, maybe some are immune to some things, but there's probably enough common, humanoid, DNA between them that they're probably affected on some level.
I like the idea that something really serious to us is like the common cold to the Klingons, like. We're like, oh shit, I've got cancer, and Worf's like, what? I had cancer last week. I got over it. It's fine.
I mean, here's the thing, though. Swine flu, bird flu, right?
Yes.
There's no reason we can catch those, so there's no reason to.
Oh no! I'm fully aware that many a disease, most of them, in fact, the serious ones usually come from animals.
Transferable across. Yeah.
I don't know. Just speculating. Maybe Klingons might be immune to some things.
Oh, they're pretty immune to some things, yeah.
But yeah, so they get the hack in essentially. I'll say hack in. Picard uses his override. It's all official, but they get the security footage or the live feed from the bridge of this other ship, and they're all dead and they're all very old. And all I could think to myself for this scene is because unlike later when we've got some old age makeup, all I could think was they carted out some like 80-year-olds and said, "Hey, do you want a small part in a sort of Star Trek episode?"
Go sit on a chair. We'll give you some ice cream.
And pretend you're dead. Like, what? Why are we pretending we're dead? Because you're old. So, no, it turns out that the old episode from the original series with the aging has got a bit of a sequel here because they've all rapidly aged. And they place the ship under quarantine. Everyone agrees, Pulaski included, that there's under no circumstance should anyone go aboard that ship. And they're already dead, so there's no emergency now. It's just like, no. Yeah. Like, we have to just warn everyone, put a beacon on it so that we can find it again when the time comes.
Yeah.
And
just quarantine it.
Yeah. So they go to where they were going, which is this lab, this research place.
Yeah. I think it's where the ship had already been. So they're like, oh, right, well, let's go there then.
Well, no, that's where they were going anyway, I'm sure.
Was it?
Yeah. Yeah, because Picard's surprised when they mentioned that ship was there. They're like, oh, we encountered them a few hours ago. Like,
I thought they only headed there because they got the information from the ship.
Maybe you're right.
It doesn't really matter. They end up going there either way.
They end up there, and they're all infected. They're all aging really fast, and I think this is not a great episode, but I think what I do like about it compared to the original series episode, just in a sort of overall concept kind of way, from a character perspective, is that in this episode, only one person gets infected because they take a risk, but the attitude from Picard and the crew as a whole throughout this whole thing is that under no circumstance can we allow ourselves to be infected. So even though something serious is going on and something dangerous is happening, and my cat's knocking my camera out the way, they have this very scientific. I was done with the cat. This very scientific approach, but like, no. We under no circumstances can interact with anyone. We can beam any of them across. It could be, fatal to everyone on the crew. And part of me was expecting by the end of the episode to have everyone start to get old age makeup, except Data. And Data may be the one who like saves everyone because he's obviously immune because he's not a biological entity. But no, true enough, we get to the end of the episode. Picard's never been in danger. Riker's never been in danger. Geordi, Troy, whoever, so on and so on. And I was like, you know what? I respect that. I respect that they actually approached this from a purely scientific method and said, no, we're not going to get everyone hurt. Regardless of what you feel about the rest and the stupid old age makeup, because the old age makeup on Pulaski is atrocious.
Of course it is, yeah.
Why did they keep doing this? They did this last season, and it was like the worst episode of the season.
I mean, I think it was less terrible than the original series makeup, but I mean, they're only doing it on one person as opposed to everyone.
Well, yeah, but was it less terrible than the old age makeup last season? Because we had multiple old age makeups last season.
Probably on par.
We had the guy who was reverse aging, and then we also had McCoy in the first episode with the old age makeup. So why do they keep doing this? It looks terrible. Stop it.
Yeah. We should mention as well. We keep saying, this is a sequel, pseudo sequel to that episode. Unlike the Naked Now, which was very directly, it was the same thing, and they reference whereas this one, it's just more a sequel in concept.
Yeah, more of a concept sequel than it is actually the same thing again. But But effectively, it's the same damn thing. Like, it may come from a different place, but for us watching it, it's like, yeah, okay, there's an old age disease going around.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, but there's children down here that are genetically engineered children, and I'm like, didn't you learn nothing from Wrath of Khan? Come on, stop it. Stop it! Like, this is a double-headed thing. On the one hand, I'm like, writers, stop doing these old age plot lines because it looks terrible, and then I'm like, characters, stop genetically engineering people because it always leads to something bad.
Yeah, and obviously the this base, they're like, well, we got infected from that ship, but our kids are fine. And I'm like, and they're like, and you know, they question, well, hey, you're in genetics. Is it possible something went astray? And they're like, no, we're strictly human genetics. Nothing could have got out of control here. I'm like, yeah, sure. That seems plausible.
Yeah. You get ahead, though. You get ahead, because we have to talk about the journey to get to the discovery of what it is, because we have a whole debate with Pulaski about what to do and how to actually investigate this and possibly save the people down there, specifically the kids. Because that's I mean, even the people on the station are like, no, hey, you have to try and save these kids. They can't be here on their own once we die.
The future of humanity.
And Pulaski's like, well, we could try this, and everyone's like, no, quarantine problem. No, we're not risking it. We can't do it. And even though it
is a little bit bizarre that the Enterprise has no quarantine room.
It's not a science vessel, so I mean,
it's not. But I would have expected just on safety procedures to have some room. The ability to cut them off.
Yeah.
I'm just a little surprised.
What's the hunt? Remember the original series, how there was a whole plot that could have been solved with having a shuttle, and then like 5 episodes later they introduced a shuttle.
Yeah.
So what's the bet in that by mid-season 3 there's an episode where they've got a quarantine room? Oh, that said, you could argue that they put it in after this.
There's a reaction to this. Yeah.
Like, we need to build a special quarantine room just in case something like this arises again.
Yeah.
So okay, that hell, maybe they did that with the shuttle. Maybe like, oh, we need to get some shuttles. We need to get some shuttles.
Yeah. Could be.
But yeah, so she's arguing this, that, blah, blah, and eventually she's like, okay, what about we put him in this condom thing? Because that's what it is. And we also have the force field as well, and we can scan him without ever taking him out the protective bubble and see what's wrong with him. Or at least maybe get an idea of what's wrong with him. And it's a very small risk still, but we have to do it because otherwise we can never do anything. Like, this is the only way we can actually proceed forward. And Picard's very hesitant, but he's like, okay, yes, I approve of the procedure. Make it so. Yeah. Yada. And I like the small detail here, actually, where when they're beaming him up, they have to like beam him up in a certain way and make sure they get him like in the casing first, essentially, so that because they don't want any exposed like parts of him in the transporter room before he goes to the med bay.
You mentioned we got O'Brien on the transporter. This is, I think, obviously he's been around a few episodes here. There. This is the first time I think he's had a proper speaking role, though, right?
No, I think we heard. I mean, I think it was like the first couple of episodes of season 1, but I think
maybe a line here or there, but as a proper character.
Well, he even gets to be on one of the meetings in the ready room. Later on, which I mean, I just happen to know that he's like one of the core cast on Deep Space Nine, so he clearly
exactly.
They like him as time goes on.
Obviously, like, okay, I know where he goes, and I've been seeing him around on the show, but I don't remember him ever having a role to this extent.
He'll always be the third. I was going to say secondary villain, but he's actually the third, because you've got Tommy Lee Jones, then Gary Busey, and then you've got this dude in Under Siege. He's the third villain in that movie.
Fair enough.
And then years later, I saw him in Alan Partridge Alpha Papa, which I enjoyed. So he's an actor who's popped up in a lot of things, but clearly a lot of people just know him from Star Trek, and I'm discovering his Star Trek years as you see.
To be fair, for a long time you could say that about Patrick Stewart as well.
You say that, but X-Men was like almost 20 years ago now, so he's pretty well known for a couple of things at this point.
Jesus Christ, it was that long ago. Okay, I take it back.
Yeah, 2000. It's 19 years. In fact, it's been longer. Well, this is actually a really weird comparison because the Star Trek movies were still going on, but it's been longer since he first became Xavier than it had been when he became Xavier since the Next Gen ended on TV.
By a considerable amount.
It's only been 6 years since Next Gen ended when he was in the first X-Men movie.
All right.
There you go. Or to put it into our perspective, we're getting Picard soon. The gap between Picard and the last time he played Picard in Nemesis is actually slightly shorter than when he first started playing Xavier to now.
Yeah, okay.
There you go. But yeah, so they beam him up, and he, Pulaski goes in, scans him, yada yada yada. And it's very inconclusive. They don't really have an answer. And she's like, "Look, I'm going to have to look at him without the condom. I'm going to have to actually properly take samples."
And Picard's like, no chance.
And Picard's like, no. Like, and I love how like Worf kind of gets like, oh, like he looks really angry every time she suggests it. Like, don't you dare, put us at risk. I say we nuke the site from orbit. Just it's the only way to be sure. That's his attitude the whole time.
See, Worf definitely wants to just space him. Just teleport him out there. Let him disintegrate. Problem solved.
Yes. So she's very upset by this, but she understands that that's his order. And then she eventually talks to the lead scientist again, and she kind of pleads with her to save the kids. And she's like, "Well, leave it with me. I'll see what I can do." And, one of the arguments about the force fields, because she says, "Oh, we'll go inside a force field, so it's only me. It's at risk. Everyone else is safe." But the idea being that if they have to use their power for anything else, it could disrupt the force field.
Not foolproof.
Yeah. And she goes to Geordi, says, "Is there any way we could create a cut-off system that would be separate from the rest of the ship that wouldn't be at risk at all?" And he's like, "Nah, not really. But I mean, the one way you could get completely cut off is maybe by going on a shuttle." And I'm like, that's actually a really good idea. That's a really simple solution to this. Is just go on a shuttle and do it. Yeah. And she goes for approval, and Picard's still a bit hesitant because she's putting herself at risk, but says, "Okay, do it."
You can't argue with it's an enclosed environment. On your own head, be it.
Yeah, well, in the way he even says, he's like, what, I can't deny that you're actually trying to accommodate, my orders here. Like, I said that you had to be separate, it couldn't be a risk to anyone else, and you've thought of a way around that. You've thought of a way to make that happen. So, he's like, yeah. So she grabs Data. So we get Data and Pulaski together, because that's always a fun pair. And Data's piloting the shuttle.
She immediately just insults him.
Immediately is robotist or androidist, or what's the word for being racist to robots? I don't know. I'm sure there's someone's made a nerdy science word for this. I'm sure it exists.
There definitely is one. Yeah. And I'm sure I've heard it before. And if someone said it to me now, I'd be go, "Yep, that's it."
Toastophobic. I don't know. So they beam the kid onto, and the kid, by the way, because when the kid first arrives in the Enterprise, Worf's like, "It's a trap," and he's like ready to like try and kill him because he looks like quite tall for a kid, because he's like 17 or something like that, as opposed to
but he's supposed to be 12.
Yeah. And this is not because of the disease that's going around. This is because their genetic engineering has made him like the 12-year-old version of this guy is like, oh, he could already take on Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like by the time he's actually 18, he's probably going to be like Superman. Is I think the idea. So Pulaski, takes the bubble off him and does some readings, but of course before very long, also he has telepathy. It doesn't really matter, but it's just there
because peak human, right?
Because peak human has telepathy. But she immediately gets the acute arthritis pains, which is the first sign you've got this thing. It's like, oh shit.
She's like, oh damn it, I'm screwed.
These kids are carriers. Okay, under no circumstance, this science station is to be quarantined forever.
Let them die.
These kids are going to have to just take care of themselves because they're too dangerous to come into contact with any other living being. And because they're already infected at this point, or she is, they go down to the station because they may as well. There's no point in not going down there now. And of course, she starts having a little bit of old age, and then it's every time Picard calls her later in the episode,
it's advanced.
It's worse and worse. But what they discover is that it's not a disease. It's actually the immune system of these perfect humans. There was that ship that came that kind of introduced the element that triggered it, but
because one of the guys had some sort of flu, which was, it's fine, it's just a regular flu.
Yeah, mild flu, no big deal. And basically their immune system became lethal to protect them from this thing, and it's now basically attacking anything that can carry a disease that would hurt them, and that's why it's now aging Well, it's not so much as attacking the humans. It's like a side effect of what its immune system is doing. They said it's like attacks this type of enzyme, and that's
it alters the structure to make it harmless to them, but it also alters the human DNA and kind of just completely screws up.
Yes. So they're screwed. The people who are aging on the station are screwed. The children are doomed to live their lives alone forever.
Until they starve.
And I'm sure they'll send in food. The Starfleet's not inhumane.
I don't know if that's more cruel. You've got to stay on that one little base forever.
Sure. But if the option is that we have to kill them or let them like stay in the base forever, surely you end them quickly with an explosion or something. You don't let them starve to death slowly.
Sure.
If your argument is that this is more humane,
no, this is true. It's true. Especially as if these are peak, genetically engineered, I suspect they might live longer.
Letting them starve to death is like 2 steps away from let's actually torture them slowly until they die.
Just look, Picard's like, right, we're just gonna back away, leave you to your own devices. If you figure it out, great. If you starve to death on your own, tough shit.
See if we get an episode in like season 6 where these kids are like the new Khan and crew because they've grown up angry that they've been left alone. Like, I'm just gonna say, scientists stop trying to genetically alter humans. It's leading to bad things every single goddamn time. But the plot of this episode then turns its focus to try to save Pulaski. Like, can we save her? And very quickly, it's O'Brien himself and Geordi kind of at the meeting who essentially come up with this idea that there's like every time someone goes through the transport, there's like a genetic record of who's went through, mainly for security reasons. Sorry,
the trace, I think they call
the trace. But theoretically, if they have what her DNA was before, they could sort of filter her as she's coming back through the transport because they mentioned as well that there's a DNA or not DNA, but there's like a filter when they come through to like prevent diseases like coming up with them. But clearly, this thing already got through with the kid who was transported, so they know it's bypassing whatever they've got. So it's like, we can do some techno mumbo jumbo. I can rejigger it a little bit, and maybe we could try this. But the first thing they need is her history. But then it turns out that she never uses the transport beam because she hates the transport beam and is terrified of it. So Picard has to call her old captain and ask, like, hey, have you got... Well, there's a little bit of a conversation about her first because he's like, she idolizes you, Picard. She required the transfer as soon as there was a position available. She and it's like, we bicker all the time. In fact, the exact word at the end of that scene when he says this to him, he's like, extraordinary. That's his response when he finds out she apparently idolizes him. Because clearly her actions have not suggested that. But
no.
We find out that she did use the beam on there, but they scrubbed her record the second she left the ship because they didn't really see any reason to keep it.
Probably standard protocol.
Probably. And he's like, damn it. So then it's like, wait, we all had like blood tests and stuff before. Is it possible to use the DNA we have from that to filter her beam?
Extrapolate out from there.
Yeah. I think what I like about this to an extent, although there might be situations in the future where it's like, well, couldn't they do that trick again where they just sort of revert them using the transporter beam? I do like it in this case on its own just because it's like, well, we can't save everyone else that's down there because we've not transported them. Like, we can't do anything for them.
Yeah.
Unless they've got like unaffected blood samples they can send up that are sealed or something. I don't know, but like
maybe
I don't know, but I kind of like this. Okay, we can kind of trick it to save her, but we can't really do anything for everyone else.
Yeah, and even this is a bit of a process because they go to medical, and go, she hasn't done a single examination on on this ship. Yeah,
and they also mention that this is not foolproof, and if it's not going to work, they're going to have to revert the beam to just into space and kill her. Like, because it's like
there's no putting her back.
Yeah. So if this doesn't work, or she's still going to be infected, and we can't like have her on the ship, we just have to put her into space, and she's going to die. So,
but I mean, she's going to die in a matter of hours anyway.
Oh, sure, yeah. It's that thing where, in a pure logical sense, it makes sense. It does make sense to do it, but it is like obviously
they're the ones making the call.
Yeah, they're making the call, which is why there's a really nice moment where Picard's like, "I'll operate the transporter beam." He takes it from O'Brien. He's like, because O'Brien like says like how dangerous this is and how he's clearly nervous about it, and Picard's like, "I'll do it myself because I'll
take the responsibility if I have to reverse it and actively kill her rather than just let her die."
Yeah, I'll do that as the captain because I'll
make that call.
Yeah. But it works, of course. Although I do like that before this, when data beams back up, There is a small moment with Picard where Picard, like, before he like starts asking him questions about stuff, he's like, "It's good to see you, Lieutenant." And Data's like, "Oh, thank you, sir." Like, there's a moment where Picard just forgets to be official and just like needs to tell him that he's happy to see him again.
Yeah.
And I like that. It was like, oh, Picard, Data's growing on him. We're getting to that point.
Picard played Data for a long time.
Yeah, but we're getting these small human moments. I love the idea that Picard also is showing more humanity as the show goes on, even though he's not actually the android.
Yeah, it's true. He is. Yeah.
But it works, and everyone's all happy, and we end the episode with them going back to the ship and blowing it up. They all stand and
Yeah.
not quite salute, but they all sort of stand and.
I assume they leave the station as it was and just
Because the kids are there, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. God knows they don't really address it, do they? They're like, well, we saved our person.
Yeah, I mean I'm sure they'll work out the minutia off camera. It's fine. It's fine.
Get some terrifying supercons.
Oh dear, yeah. The old age. Do you know the funny thing is though, is that it didn't ruin the episode as much as I thought it would, because it was actually fairly limited. Her old age makeup, like it was a couple of calls.
Only her. She was only in a handful of scenes with it.
Yeah, she was in a lot of the episode, but once she started aging, it was only a few scenes we got of her. It was almost like they knew it looked terrible, so they wanted to stay away from it.
She just didn't want to sit in the chair that long.
Yeah, she had makeup for one day. I'm not doing it any more than that.
Yeah,
it's too much.
They do the scene and then add on a bit more. Right,
yeah.
Next scene, add on a bit more. All right, and that's it. Done.
Yes. So honestly, I was expecting a complete train wreck, and while I don't think it's a great episode, I actually think it came out all right, given what it's about.
It's a bit dull, but it has some nice points in there. I think the stuff with Picard and stuff is generally pretty solid.
Yeah, I think the back half of the episode, despite the fact that's the part with the old aging stuff, is actually the stronger half, because it's the problem solving and trying to save Pulaski. The first half, where they're debating over what to do, is a bit more tedious, although I do appreciate that there is actually the strong conservative, no, we're not just going to beam someone out of the ship, we're not idiots, let's be safe about this. So, I like that part.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So, Unnatural Selection is not a terrible episode. It's not a great one.
It's not the worst.
Yeah. 3.6. Not great, not terrible. Some things I like.
We still doing that?
We're still doing that. That's Chernobyl. If anyone didn't get that reference, that's a Chernobyl joke. Just go with it. So next time on Star Trek: The Next Generation, A Matter of Honor is the title of the episode. And
is it a Worf episode?
Joe's just funny. I don't. Oh, it might be. It doesn't mention him by name, but given the what's in it, that probably. But what I'm going to say actually is I had a thought this episode, right? How good Wesley's been this season. And what I mean by that is that he's not had any plots this season. He's literally just the kid on the bridge who says, yes, inputting, warp 7. And that's all he does, is he just changes the trajectory.
Isn't it?
And I thought, maybe this is just like them realizing that everyone hated him, so they just do this all season 2 before he leaves.
Is there a big bit with him in first or second episode where it was like, hey, your mother's not here anymore?
Yeah, that was the first episode. Yeah, that was him deciding to stay. But since he's decided to stay, he's just been the guy in the ship who does. Which, if you think about it, on Discovery, that's someone who's not really that much of a character. We talk about how the bridge crew in Discovery is not necessarily. They've gone a little bit better as time has went on. But I couldn't help but think that he's kind of almost a proto version of that now, where he's just there and does the commands, but he doesn't.
He's a shit Detmer.
Yeah. Detmer's better. No doubt about it. So I clicked on this one and he's in the photo, which might not mean anything. He may just be standing there in the scene. It may not be a Wesley focused episode. I don't think it is, given the description here. So the description for A Matter of Honor. Under an officer's exchange program, Riker serves aboard a Klingon ship whose aging captain seeks an unwarranted bloody retaliation for a suspected Enterprise treachery. So maybe it's not. I read Klingon and assumed maybe Worf will have a big part because there's Klingons involved.
There still might be, because it's an exchange, so a Klingon officer is now serving in Riker's place, right? Yeah,
it depends. This description makes it sound like it's weighted more to following Riker on the Klingon ship, but it could be more 50-50 in the episode.
Yeah, these descriptions have been a little misleading in the past.
Yes, I like. This actually sounds like a fun premise, and the rating is pretty solid actually. So,
okay, I'll look forward to that one then.
And I'll just say this: the one after that is a biggie. Not only has it got the highest rating of any episode we've done so far, I actually recognise the title.
Oh?
I know the title of this one. It's called The Measure of a Man. I've heard of this episode.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
So, We've got maybe our first proper big episode in a couple of weeks. But next up,
hang on.
What?
How dare you overlook Skin of Evil?
Big and good. Big and good.
Well, that's a whole different ball game.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Tasha Yar, your spirit lives on and is all.
Every time it rains.
Every time there's a gang who may or may not be up to no good. Look, sometimes when you say words like that, you get demonetized on YouTube. I'm not going to say it needlessly for no reason. All right, so
I'm all right.
That has been episode 7 of season 2. Let us know what you thought of this one in the comments below. You can like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the show and the channel and everything we do here, you can head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv, where you can support us for as little as $1 per month. For that $1, you get these Star Trek reviews a week early, as well as the classic Twilight Zone reviews that I do with Tara. You get bonus episodes of a couple of our movie review shows every month, and a few other little tidbits. So go and have a look over there and see if you want anything, but mostly supporting us over there keeps all the content coming, so go have a look-see. You can also rate the audio podcast version on your podcast app. Give us a 5-star rating, that helps us out as well. Helps the search engine and the recommendations pimp us out to more people, so go and do that. Otherwise though, that is us, so thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Star Trek, guys, and to everyone but Connor, live long and prosper.